Hello everybody, welcome back to Games Now. It is a game jam time. I'm here with my co-host Solip Park. I'm Anna-Kaisa Kultima. And we have the Games Now online jam number 6 happening today. It's a 1-week game jam starting from today and ending next week Monday. The deadline actually is already on Sunday. And the theme for or the name of the jam is Neighbours game jam. We're gonna reveal the theme soon, but couple of regular things for the jam before we go. We do have 4 wonderful keynote speakers and 1 interpreter for the reason of one of the keynote speakers. We're gonna go soon there, but just a couple of things to explain. So the schedule of the jam is that we start today. There is a brainstorming session right after the jam in Discord. If you're not there yet, please join. We have a progression reports for all the teams every day. And then the submission deadline is on Sunday. We have all the time zones spread out there.
Yeah.
Because we have a nice collaboration with our friends and neighbors
all around the world. And that's involved time zone madness. Look at this.
And also language barrier. So we have Finnish, Swedish, sometimes language barrier, oftentimes no. And then Korean and Japanese. And us Finns and Swedes with Koreans and Japanese might be difficult, but then Koreans and Japanese might have better.
Somewhat, yeah. Many of us can do Japanese in some degree, yes, but then still Chinese letters.
So we're looking, this is our first time ever to have this kind of a country set up for a game jam. We are doing one jam instead of a global game jam to have like separate sites. We are doing a one jam with all of these people. There can be solo teams, there can be teams across the countries, or there can be just single country teams, but we encourage people to try out despite the language barriers.
Yeah, try to mix it up, try to make international teams if you can. You can of course rely on various other language translations tools out there in order to communicate with your international teammates. Just be mindful about the time difference that is going on between Asia and Europe, which is around 6 hours at the moment, 6 to 7 hours.
Yeah. And we do also, even though if you're not jamming and you're a Japanese viewer, you can also join our Japanese help channel on our Discord, because we have our interpreter, Jonas Kirsi, doing partial interpretation during the talks in English. So we try to accommodate everybody in terms of their barriers to entry.
Yes.
We're super excited that the introductions in the Game Jam teaming channel has been already happening, and we're gonna continue there quite soon after this. But nevertheless, like, this is obviously interesting for anybody even not jamming today, because we have wonderful 4 keynote speakers.
Yes, from 4 different countries.
Yes.
And we haven't done this before, so we're also very nervous at the same time how this gonna turns out. So fingers crossed. Yes.
And our wonderful keynote speakers will share also their tips and tricks for Game Jam. It's only about 10 minutes slot that they have this possibility, but it's gonna be hopefully inspirational to all of you. They might also open up a little bit of the theme that we announced in a couple of seconds, how they interpret that. So Lassi, our technician, if you can show the theme slide for us. So the name of the jam is Neighbours Game Jam, and the exact theme is relation. So you can interpret it. You can interpret it in different ways. I guess, Solip, you have also like Japanese and Korean versions of this word.
Yeah, relation can be translated many different words in Korean and Japanese. For example, 관계, 친구, maybe also in Korean language, and tomodachi, kankai, or those type of related words in Japanese. But then I try to translate this in one word. It's very difficult because it's a very big concept.
Yeah.
So if you are joining our jam from non-English speaking country, I'm pretty sure many of you do, go to online dictionary and try to see what relations means in your own language, and maybe try from there. You can have different interpretations.
So like in most of the game jams, the theme is there for you to get inspired and do something interesting. but it's not there to stop your creativity. So make sure that you interpret it exactly how it inspires you. So relation can be a family relation. It can be a relation between A and B, whatever they are. But yeah, it's the time of the world that we have to think about relations and be very mindful and friendly with our neighbors. So we're gonna bring our wonderful cast of speakers today. It's gonna be Arvi Teikari, Martin Jonasson, Sun Park, and Masafumi Onuki, as well as our interpreter Jonas, to help us understand us all understand each other. Hi everybody, how are you doing?
Wave your
Wave
hand.
your hands.
Hello, now you're on screen, guys.
안녕하세요.
안녕하세요.
So
Konnichiwa.
Arvi, how is life in Helsinki?
Life in Helsinki is mostly great. There were several weeks of absolutely stunning, bright, clear mornings and nights here. I was really enjoying looking outside from my apartment. But now we have winter again. There was snowfall yesterday, and
Yes.
it's awful outside again. But it will get better. The
It will
spring
get
is
better.
coming.
Well, I actually like snow, so it's better both ways.
I like snow, but I don't like the kind of slushy snow you get in the spring.
It's
Yeah.
water everywhere.
How about Martin? Are you in Malmö?
I am in Malmö, and we also have spring, like it may be possible to go outside and not suffer permanent damage, which is nice.
That's very good.
No snow.
So no permanent damage, even though the zombie hordes are out there, I guess. Okay, Sun Park, are you in Seoul or where are you?
I'm in my home because recently South Korea is a kind of peak of Omicron cases number.
Oh, yeah.
So
yeah. You're safe from the zombies, basically.
Yes. Until now.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And hello, Masafumi san, how are you doing?
こんにちは。
Hello, everybody.
桜の見頃ですね。
It's the spring sakura time, the cherry blossom time right now.
Oh.
Yeah.
In
And
Japan.
our interpreter Jonas is in Luosto, I guess, and up north in Finland.
Yes, absolutely. Enjoying my holiday in Lapland, but I always have time for you guys.
Oh, nice.
That's perfect.
Even in holiday.
Masafumi, in which city are you at the moment?
日本の埼玉という東京の隣の都市なんですけど、そこにいます。
I'm in Saitama. It is actually a city next to Tokyo. That's where I am right now.
Oh, that's perfect. I really wish I could go to Japan soon.
Yeah, no.
All right, so we're going to, the time is really short, so we're going to go immediately to the first talk. I'm so excited to hear what Arvi has to share. Arvi has been doing a lot of game jams. We know very famously of one of the projects from a game jam. Hopefully he'll open up a bit of his background in the talk. And while Arvi is talking, you're going to see Solip's illustration. So we'll see what happens. So here you go, Arvi. The stage is yours.
So yeah, I'm Arvi Teikari, also known as Hempuli on the internet. And I was going to have slides, but unfortunately life happened. So I will be just trying to express myself clearly enough.
You're gonna have better slides now that Solip is going to write and draw for you.
Absolutely, absolutely. So yeah, I'm a Finnish game developer, and while I didn't start off by joining in Game Jam, I started making games in about 2001, and game jams were not really a thing then. Game jams have been a super big part of my game development hobby/career. I think I participated in my first game jam in 2009, so over 10 years ago, in the Ludum Dare online game jam. I actually just yesterday, by chance, looked at my entry that year for the Advancing Wall of Doom themed game jam, and it wasn't great, but I had fun, and that's the most important thing. And for the tricks or tips I want to give people, I want to kind of, as a warning beforehand, I personally enjoy working on my own for a couple of reasons. One of the reasons is because I tend to have a very strong urge of keeping everything in my hands, and I'm getting to dictate everything. I'm not the best at working on teams, so I usually prefer working on my own. But also, I feel that if something goes wrong, if the game fails horribly, I like to be in a situation where I can't blame anyone but myself, and no one else suffers but me. So those are kind of my reasons. But my tips are going to be kind of maybe more solo development centered because of that. As my first tip, I want to say, don't work solo. At least don't work every time solo, because jams, especially physical jams, if you meet people in real life, they can be wonderful experiences if you actually share your experiences with other people. And working in a team forces you into very surprising new situations. You cannot stay as easily in your comfort zone. So I would say that even if you don't personally enjoy working in a team usually, it's very nice to sometimes let yourself join a team and see what it is like. One of my very early Game Jam experiences in Nordic Game Jam was being part of a team because I decided that, well, I'll try it. And I made music. I had never ever before made music for a game, and it was a blast. I had a lot of fun, and I still have the music tracks, and they are awful, but that doesn't matter. I had fun, and we had fun as a team. That's the important part. So I want to urge people to step out of your comfort zone, at least sometimes, if you participate in multiple jams. But then for the more solo-centric tips, I guess, for me, it's very, very nice to kind of try to have as many plans as possible beforehand, kind of have some small beginnings of ideas in your head before the jam even starts, especially if the jam has some kind of a voting system where you can know beforehand that, okay, the final theme is going to be one of these 10 or 5 or something. It can be very frustrating, I've noticed at the Game Jam, to have some idea for, like, if that theme wins, I know what I'm doing. Then that theme doesn't win because you can never know which theme wins. And then you feel that, okay, well, I don't actually have any ideas for the actual theme. I've definitely noticed a couple of times that I lost all my willingness to even participate because I realized that, well, all my plans that I have been slowly kind of gathering in my head are now useless. I have to start from zero. So what I try to do nowadays is I try to have a couple of early concepts in my head for what kind of a game I would like to make at this point. It doesn't even have to be kind of like very definite plans. Some people might even say that if you have a very definite plan, that's almost like cheating because then you are not doing the planning during the jam. But just having some kind of an idea of, I want to do a resource management thing. I'm currently interested in a platformer, something like that. And then when you see the theme, you don't have to start from zero as kind of like, oh, that's the theme. What kind of a game do I want to make? But instead you can start with, that's the theme. Can I somehow fit this theme into these things that I knew earlier that I wanted to make? And especially with game jams that have the theme being voted beforehand, you can even think of all the potential themes and try to think of some simple ideas for all of them so that when the theme gets announced, you are, again, not floundering and having to start from zero, but instead okay, now it's that theme. I had this simple idea in my head. Do I still want to do that? There you have more flexibility to your approach if you do that. And a second tip that has been very helpful for me and also relates to the general taking care of yourself during a game jam. I personally enjoy a lot doing the kind of thing where I spend the night working on the game during the final night, kind of like allowing myself to work hard on a thing that I'm excited about and then letting myself rest after the game jam. But I've also noticed that as a balance to that kind of working hard, like really concentrating, it can be absolutely crucial to take some like actual breaks, not just taking a break from developing a game and looking up some videos on YouTube, but actually leaving your computer. In physical jams, I've noticed that if there's a venue where you can walk around, especially if the venue is such that there's a lot of people working on different groups in different areas of the venue, I like to just wander around, go in different rooms, look around, ask people what they're doing, and just kind of like wander and let my thoughts also wander, not really concentrate too hard on what am I doing right now, what do I do next? Because you usually get more ideas that way. You allow your mind to get inspired by things you see. And I remember one specific time in 2009 when I was working on a simple idea, and I went for a walk outside. It was a really beautiful sunny day, maybe late summer. When I was returning from the walk, there was a huge rainfall and I got soaking wet. And somehow that has stuck in my mind as this kind of really cool thing of, I went for a walk, I got some new ideas, I refreshed my mind, and then the nature kind of refreshed myself for me as well. It was a really cool experience, and I felt that going for that walk was very good for inspiration. As a final small tip is that when you see a theme, be ready, unless the rules explicitly disallow it, which would seem odd, but sometimes they might. But if the rules allow creative interpretations of the theme, consider how creatively can you interpret a theme. I remember one time years ago, I was participating in the game jam with the theme Discovery. And one person made a game called Disco Very, which was a dancing game.
Lovely.
Yeah, I tried to think of like relation, how would you like re-lotion, like applying suntan lotion again on your body, something like that. Like
Perfect.
I think sometimes taking a theme and going into a really odd direction with it can, at the very least, make sure that no one else is going to make a similar game like you. Because sometimes themes can lead people in a certain direction. So if the theme is plumber who jumps, a lot of people are going to make Mario-like games, I would argue. I could be wrong, but I would argue. So taking that theme and taking it into a completely different direction could be inspiring, because then you could run into some kind of, I don't know, plumbing real-time strategy where you have to jump over wage gaps to reach the employers as the plumbers fighting for the union or something like that. Yeah, there's always a lot of possibilities if you just get out of the initial mindset, oh, this is obviously Mario. But yeah, those are my tips and tricks. Thanks for listening.
Absolutely perfect. That's 9 minutes. So I love that there is this one idea now to steal, which is re-lotion. So take that as a tip. Also for anybody who's making a game, maybe you can do it that outside a game jam re-lotion game. I would be happy to see that. All right, so we're gonna move next to and if you have any questions, just put them into the Twitch chat or in Discord. We'll grab them at the end of the presentations. But we're gonna move to Martin's talk. So straight from the big city of Malmö, I guess.
Yay! That is true. I am in Malmö.
That is in Sweden.
In Sweden, yes. Very, very close to Denmark, but still Sweden.
Yeah.
Yeah, I guess I'll just do the thing. My name
your
is Martin.
thing.
You may know me as grapefrukt. That's what I tend to go by on the internet. And I was just like Arvi. I think I went to my first game jam in 2009 or so. And that's a long time ago.
Yeah.
It's a little bit scary, to be honest.
Yeah.
And I've been a full-time indie developer for about 10 years at this point. It's coming like next year, I think it's going to be a strictly 10-year anniversary of me just doing video games for a living, which is also a little bit scary, but kind of cool. I didn't think it would
Congrats.
last this long.
My latest game is called Hold Down. I don't have any. I forgot to bring. I have more balls. I gave one to Annika earlier, but I don't have it with me, so you're not.
You can
gonna
show
get
them
to see-
later. Yeah.
Yeah. Anyway, I'm gonna try and give you some good advice for game jamming. So here's a few things I have realized for the game jams I've been to during the years. Usually, I've done weekend game jams, and that can get really intense. Like you start on like a Friday or maybe a Thursday, and then you just go bananas for 3 days. This sort of week-long format is potentially a little bit more relaxed. I mean, you can still go nuts if you want to, I guess, but I wouldn't recommend it. So it's really nice just to be able to take some breaks and like stew on things for a little bit. I'm gonna assume that everybody knows that you need to like eat and sleep and drink. You seem to have made it this far in life. You're probably good. But I figured a few sort of game jam strategy tips would be useful. So that's what we're going to talk about. But before we do that, one thing I think you should really think about before you start a game jam is like why am I doing this game jam? Like what's in it for me? Is your first game jam and you just want to see what it's like? That's cool. Do you, like Arvi said, do you have an idea that you already want to try, something that you've been thinking about? That's also really cool. Or do you just want to hang out, make some new friends? Really cool. I find that that's mostly what I tend to do nowadays, that I make games for a living. I'm not super interested in making more video games. I'd rather just talk to people. Or do you just want to dig in and work on some video games for a while? That's also great. Or any combination of the above. It's just like it's useful to think about why you're doing it and then sort of try and optimize your own experience for those means. But anyway, strategy tips for video game jamming like things. So the first part, as far as I'm concerned, I think of game jams to have sort of 3 parts, and the first part is ideation, like coming up with what it is that you're going to be making. And for game jams, typically you're on a time crunch. You have a limited amount of time, so it's very tempting to just start going immediately. And I think this is a mistake. You should not start working immediately. You should sit down. You should talk to your group or yourself if you're doing it solo and try and decide on an idea. Like this is obviously you're going to decide on an idea before you start working, but really try to think about it. And it doesn't have to be fully planned out because that's basically impossible for something like this. But as long as you have some sort of general direction of where you're going, what it's going to be, and make sure that you all agree on what it is you're making as well. And then, this is the tricky part, you try and figure out what the hardest part is going to be. Like what's the thing we've never done before? What's the part that we're scared is going to be a huge problem? And then try to like reshuffle your work so you can start with the hard part and see if that works. Because if it doesn't work, you're gonna have to rethink, and it's really bad to discover that like an hour before the deadline. Maybe you just do a little quick test thing in Unity. Maybe you do a paper prototype. Maybe you with dice and like whatever it is. It can be super quick, it can be super dirty and not even work properly. But as long as it can give you the information you need, be like, okay, I think we can pull this off. That's good. That's what you're looking for.
That's perfect tip. Yeah.
Yeah. Then the second part is like making the thing. It's fairly obvious. Like you do the work. It's yeah. But one thing I would remember is that video games are all made up. They're all fake, and there is no such thing as real. There's no reason to do more work than you need to, because it's all fake. You feel like, oh, this game would be great with procedural levels. Could you make 10 levels in the time it would take to set up the procedural stuff? Probably. You can maybe flip them and rotate them a little bit and make it seem like they were all different. Because procedural level generation is a lot of work. And then you can make them procedural later, or not at all. I don't know. Is quitting the game and restarting it easier than making a menu? Maybe that's a good idea. Just go for it. A trick I have used extensively, which is better for in-person game jams when like the game will be running on my computer, is to, instead of putting music playback in the game, I would just play it in a music player in the OS and just run the game.
Oh, wonderful.
Much easier. Horrible and dirty, but like it's not stupid if it works.
Yeah.
And sort of to the same effect is like make sure the game looks like it's fun. And I don't mean like in a fakey way, but you need to like make the game look nice, like dress it up a little bit with particle effects, sound effects, like nice graphics, whatever it may be. Because the secret is that more people are going to be looking at your game rather than playing it. So even if it's really smart and clever and nice to play, it also needs to look like it's really smart and clever and nice to play. Because the first introduction people are going to get to the game is they're going to see like a video or a screenshot maybe, or someone else playing it. And this is true for game jams. This is true for game stores, social media, everything. So it's like a useful lens to look at your game from. And these effects are also like best spent for like important things, like, oh, you did a good thing or you did a very bad thing. It's just a very useful tool to explain what's going on. Especially if you don't have time to do 1,000 things, you could just pick here are the 5 most important things. We're going to make sure they are nice. And then coming up on sort of the home stretch, the finishing part, and this is the sneaky part. Don't work on the game up until the last minute, like an hour, 2 hours, 3 hours before the deadline, depending on the length of the game jam and such. Start wrapping up. Play through the whole game a couple of times, make sure it all works the way you want to. Maybe send it to a friend, have them try it on their computer, because just because it works on your computer doesn't mean it's going to work on anyone else's computer.
Yeah.
That's useful information to have.
Yeah.
Usually game jams will require you to submit not only the game, but also like screenshots, a description, sometimes even a video. That stuff takes time to do. Very likely you're going to need to create an account on some website you've never heard of and wait for some email that never arrives and stuff like that. So it's very useful to get started on submitting early. And then you can resubmit if you need to.
Yeah.
But just make a build, give it a run through, make sure you can like pack it up so that it works. And you can do this 2 minutes before the deadline, but you can also not do that 2 minutes before the deadline. And that is a much better idea.
That's perfect.
That's
So, yeah.
all the smart things I know.
Those were super smart. Like, I really love the fake it thing, because that's like oftentimes we might think that we need like this many levels, but even in game jam game can be 1 level, for instance, and it still can be super fun. But I haven't heard this before, that make it look better, because it's oftentimes that not that many will try it, but they will maybe watch it, for instance. So that's a beautiful tip, and it really makes sense. And also, like in game industry in general, you have to be able to convey your idea. So we also have game video as a compulsory part of the submission, due to the fact that you might regret it if you don't make a video, because you want to show it to someone at some point that you made this game, and they will not be able to maybe download it. Which is very perfect, because you can embed it, the games into the website, so it kind of lowers the threshold.
Yep.
Thank you, Martin. That was really nice. That was really cool.
Ooh.
Great tips. Maybe we'll see the ping pong balls later. You can explain what they are. We're gonna go to some parks presentation next, and you will not see the live illustration now. You will see really good stuff on slides. So, Son, the stage is yours.
All right, can I start? Okay. Hello everyone, my name is Sun Park. Sorry. Okay. I make games, of course. Yeah.
Good to know.
I'm running a independent game studio called Turtle Cream in South Korea, and I'm also a regional organizer of Global Game Jam South Korea. And in addition, I'm running a very weird game festival called Out of Index, which is feature only a kind of experimental games.
Oh, that's I want to see that one day.
Yeah, you should too. And also I used to organize a tiny game jam and also participate in various game jams. So as a game developer, I do game jam because it's fun, like everybody, right? But sometimes I do game jam to experiment tiny ideas I stored before. So I have a lot of ideas which I never ever made in my brain. So the game jam is a very good place to experiment my ideas inside my brain. And most of my commercial game project has started from game jam. Isn't it super productive? But yeah, I spent for several years for each project, but yeah, it started from game jam just in 48 hours. So I think it's really cool. So today I'd like to give you some tips for game jam, and I'm always seeking to make a kind of unique gameplay or like weird gameplay experience. So my tips would be helpful, especially for making your game different with other games.
Oh, that's so lovely.
So the first tip is this one. Decide a genre of game first and then break its essence. So after started to game jam, everybody have very hard time to make a good idea, and also in the game jam, everybody really like to make a kind of crazy weird game rather than any other commercial project or something. But it's hard to make a kind of bright, cool ideas in very several minutes, right? So I recommend to decide a genre first, and then after you made a genre in your mind, and you need to find a kind of essence of that genre. So yeah, let me introduce my experience when I make my past games called 6180 The Moon. So one day we joined in a game jam, which was running by my friend's game studio. So it was kind of their internal game jam. And we just visited their office just 1 hour, 43 minutes before the end of the game jam. And then, you know, I'm a game developer and my partner was game developer. So why don't we start to make our own game in 1 hour, 43 minutes, right?
Yeah.
So my partner asked me like this. Okay, I prepare a normal platformer gameplay because I made a lot of platformer games, so it's very easy to prepare. And then, so please make an idea to make it weird in 3 minutes.
Oh.
So it was super challenging. I had only 3 minutes to make a kind of crazy idea for making platformer game. But in fact, it was pretty easy to think because we just decided a genre. You know what I mean? So yeah, let's think about like making a weird idea without any boundary. It's really you can think everything freely, but there are tons of everything in your mind. So when we decided to decide a genre for our game, it was very simple inside my brain because I think we could twist if we could make a kind of good twist inside the platformer genre's essence, that would be super weird. And then my definition of platformer genre essence was jump. So in most of platformer games, there is a platform, of course, and some characters, and those characters could jump between the platform, right? So I think that action, jump, is the kind of essence of platformer game. So I decided to make a weird twisting in that jump mechanic. So yeah, we made this kind of jump. So yeah, we made a wraps around screen between the top and bottom of the screen, and then you could jump really, really high with this weird way in the space. So
Nice.
so yeah, I think we could make a kind of this weird platformer mechanic because we had only 3 minutes and we had decided the genre first. So in conclusion, we won the game jam. We won in that game jam.
What?
Yeah. Despite we just started 1 hours and 43 minutes before the end of jam, but yeah, and also we really liked this game, and yeah, finally we made a full commercial version of this game and published it, PC, console, mobile, and everywhere. It was very good experience. So yeah, like my experience, if you feel like very hard to think kind of crazy cool ideas, decide the genre first. That could be really helpful to make it weird.
Oh, you make it sound so easy.
Yeah. And then as I mentioned, most of my game project, in fact I made 2 commercial games so far, and currently I'm making my 3rd commercial project, which was also made in Game Jam. So if you planned to do Game Jam as a prototyping your future commercial game, like me, it wasn't actually planned, but anyway, so if you want to go forward more like just enjoying Game Jam, here's a tip. So I think the reason why I make full version of my Game Jam games is because I really like these games. It's too obvious, but it's true, and I think it's very important because then let's think about why I like my Game Jam games. Because I think these games are made by 100% of my idea. So I'm not saying like cut anybody's idea. You know what I mean? So, but Game Jam is a kind of team activity. But how could I make my Game Jam with my teammate with 100% of my idea? I think I'd like to say like if you want to go forward after Game Jam, don't satisfy just enjoying the jam. So you need to be more ambitious. I'm not saying you need to have crunch time for your project, right? So here's a solution. Talk a lot with your teammate and don't avoid to argue with them. So in many Game Jam, everybody think like, oh, Game Jam is a kind of fun and everybody should enjoy this jam. And then that means like I should be a good person. And in our project, we need to mix everybody's ideas inside our game. But it's not good to make a kind of better idea. So you need to make a better game. What you need to do is like find better idea. among tons of ideas from anybody in your team, instead of mixing every idea inside your game, right? So to make it real, you need to talk a lot with your teammate. So, which means like you need to refine every idea and make them as your team's idea, not like your idea or idea from another team members. So you could cut you could cut a part of someone's idea, and also you could add some ideas into any other teammate's idea, and also you could melt them out into a better idea. So you need to talk about every idea from your teammate to make them all as your team's idea. You know what I mean? So then you could think like your game is made by 100% of your idea. It's a kind of philosophical solution, but yeah, it works. Trust me. I released 2 commercial games so far from Game Jam.
Wow, yeah.
So yeah, have fun and
Yay.
be more ambitious. Yeah.
Thank you, son.
Awesome. Thank you.
That was wonderful. Like we tend to kind of settle for ideas that it's just a mixture, but it's a great thing if you can find together in a team something that everybody gets excited about. So the kind of the better idea in there. Nevertheless, game jams are still okay to be the places that you just meet people, like Martin said. So there's so many different views how to take jams. We're going to, maybe there will be questions, but after Masafumi's talk, so we are preparing for Masafumi to speak to us, have his tips shown, and Jonas to interpret it. So this will take us a little bit longer, because we're gonna always wait for the translation. So Masafumi, the stage is yours.
Share your screen.
はい、それではおぬきさんどうぞ。
You can share your screen now.
今からシェアしていただいてされてください。
Yes, it's on now. Thank
Good.
you.
はい、出てきました。
はい。はい、皆さんこんにちは。
Hello everybody.
まず自己紹介ですが、Masafumi Onuki と申します。
So I am Masafumi Onuki.
これまでに個人開発のインディーゲームを3作品出していて、最新作はカニが戦うゲーム、ファイトクラブです。
So I'm running a indie company where I'm personally making games alone, and I've released 3 titles so far, and the newest one is called Fight Crab, where crabs are fighting.
他にも魚がシューティングをして戦うゲームや、ネオアクアリウムといったすべてエビ、カニ、魚、魚介類が題材のゲームたちを作っていました。
And also my other games feature basically everything living under the sea, like such as fish fighting or other like crustaceans fighting. So it's all very much in the same line.
大企業でも働いていましたが、プログラマーとしてなので、職業ゲームデザイナーとしてのキャリアはありません。でもそういった人たちでも自分なりのアイデアで今はゲームが作れる時代だと思います。
So I've been working in a major company before. I was a programmer, so I wasn't actually a game designer. All my game designing history is as an indie developer. But I also think that it's like we are now living in an age where actually this kind of developing is very much feasible.
ゲームジャムに何回も参加して経験が豊かというわけではないので、今回は自分なりに、変なアイディアを、の出し方のヒントを、自分の経験から、話したいと思います。
So I'm not a big like I haven't been participating in so many game jams. I don't have like so much jam experience to share with you, but I will be sharing hints and tips about how I self like to go about with making crazy ideas from my own games.
ネイバーズゲームジャムということで、今回のテーマ、関係性やまた、ネイバーズということで隣人について考えてみました。 私はなぜ魚介類を題材にゲームを作っているのだろうかと考えてみると、彼らが身近な存在だからでしょう。
So the theme of this event, it's the Neighbours game jam, and it's basically I was thinking about neighbours when I was thinking about my speech. So I would like to tell you about why I'm feeling so like drawn to the fishes and crustaceans when I make these games. I think I feel a sort of attachment to them.
人は食べ物を食べなければ生きていけませんし、私は日常的に魚介類と顔を合わせています。焼き魚、ゆでガニ、加工食品と違い、彼らには顔がついたまま食卓に上がります。
So basically, we all need food to be able to live, and I'm also like meeting these guys from under the water quite frequently, and basically, I like to have things on my table that are not actually these kinds of processed foods, but foods that actually have a face.
しかし彼らは日々食べられている、彼らは野生動物でもあるんですね。人間とはかけ離れた姿をして、かけ離れた姿をして、かけ離れた姿をしている、海の底に住んでいる生き物たちです。毎日食卓で顔を合わせているように、その生活は謎に包まれています。
But then again, even though they are frequent visitors in my food table, they are also wild animals who have their own lives under the sea, and they have their own. They look very different from us. They have their own hidden lives, and even though I'm meeting them at my on the top of my table, their lives are a mystery.
謎に包まれた、ネイバーズ隣人、これは好奇心をそそる題材じゃないでしょうか。あなたの近くにも普段触れているのに実はよく知らないみたいなものがあるのではないでしょうか。
So even though they are our neighbors, we don't know so much about them, and even though we're in contact, I mean the same goes for you. I mean, I don't think you guys know so much about these crabs and everything either. So they are very much our neighbors, but we don't know them.
昨今のゲームには 3D スキャン技術によって実在の映画スターさんが登場したりしますよね。
In recent games, we have with 3D mapping, we have, for example, like movie stars appearing in games, right? Lately.
でも人間のスターの CG をちゃんと作ろうとするのはなかなか大変です。
すいません、人間のスターの CG、CD ね。はい。
CG です。graphics.
Hi. But actually making 3D imaging with these actual people is quite challenging, actually.
でもカニなら、出演料は魚屋さんに支払うカニの代金だけで済みますし、彼らは茹でられて動かないから、写真も簡単に撮り放題ですね。で、今はフォトグラメトリという技術で写真をたくさん撮れば 3D 形状をこのように復元することもできます。
However, unlike movie stars who are very expensive to film, if you are taking a crab as your star for your own game, basically the only thing you need to pay for is to buy the crab. And if you take enough photos, you can actually make it into 3D. Lately, it's possible to actually do 3D imaging just by taking a whole lot of photos. So it's much easier.
例えばスーパーマーケットとかに行ってこのゲームに登場させてみると面白いものを探してみるのもいいかもしれません。
And actually going to the supermarket and finding new stars for your game, like this guy I want to have on my game, it's actually also quite nice.
もっと簡単な方法でよければこのように魚をスキャナーに乗せて、ポリゴンに貼り付ければ、ローポリの、簡単な魚モデルがすぐに作れたりするかもしれません。
Another way to do this is to just put the fish on the scanner and put on some polygons, and you get it done that way.
Oh my god.
すごい。
彼らをゲームに登場させるには彼らをアニメーション動かす必要がありますよね。でも魚で買ったカニはもう茹でられていて動いてくれません。
Of course, in order to have these guys appear in games, you need to have them animated. You want them to move. But the problem with buying a crab from the supermarket is that it's already boiled. It won't move for you.
で でもモーションアクター、モーションアクターさんがいなくても、皆さんには心強い味方がいます。それは物理法則です。現代の多くのゲームエンジンには物理エンジンが搭載されています。
But even though we don't have like a motion actor available, we still have a very strong ally in the form of physical laws. So many game engines lately have their own physics engines.
あなたの動きも私の動きも、物理法則が、説明してくれるはずです。
So no matter whether it's you moving, whether it's me moving, all of our movements are being basically decided upon, or they're being controlled by physical laws.
物理エンジンは演技まではしてくれませんよね。そこで、プレイヤーがカニを直接演じるのはどうでしょうか。
So of course they don't. Merely the physics engine won't do the show for you. So we have the player acting as the crab.
現代の、ビデオゲームにはゲームパッドだけでなく、モーションコントロールデバイスがいろいろ存在します。
So in modern games, you have like gamepad and other motion control devices available.
カニの喧嘩は任天堂スイッチのジョイコンに対応しています。
And the Fight Crab works on Nintendo Switch's Joy-Con.
体を動かして動物になりきってみるとはなかなか新鮮な体験ではないでしょうか。デバイスの使用も、検討してみてください。
Actually, trying to move a like body that is strange to you is actually quite a refreshing experience. I suggest that you do try these controllers.
もちろんゲームのルールもちゃんと考える必要がありますよね。
Of course, any game needs rules.
ビデオゲームにはさまざまなジャンルがあります。プラットフォーマー、FPS、RPG。でも、ビデオゲームのことばかり考えていると、今まで遊んだものと似たようなゲームができてしまう恐れもあります。
Of course, you have lots of different genres for games. You have the RPGs, you have the platformers, you have FPSs. But then, if you go with a certain genre, there's the real possibility that you end up making a game that has already been made before, a very similar game to what already exists.
何もゲームはビデオゲームだけではありません。例えば、ファイトクラブでは、武道や、子供の遊びも、参考にしました。
But if you think about games, you don't necessarily like a game doesn't have to be a video game. For example, I've been taking ideas from my game from different kinds of sources, such as the Japanese martial arts and children's plays.
この、カニの喧嘩ではレスリングのように、背中を、地面につけて3カウント取られると、負けというルールになっていて、これは、日本の柔道のようでもあります。
For example, here we have like wrestling rules in place. So if you turn the other crab around, and if their like shell hits the ground and it's there for 3 seconds, then the other one is loses. And that's also very similar to judo, for example.
カニって平べったいですし、それをひっくり返すのは、日本の子供の遊び、めんこのようでもありますね。
Because crabs, they're very flat, and there's this game called Menko that Japanese children play, where the idea is to take a crab and turn it flat.
でまた、日本の相撲も参考にしました。土俵際の攻防のような駆け引きがありまして、相手を場外に押し出すのを競ったりもします。
I've also taken some ideas from Japanese sumo wrestling. So you have basically there are these two crabs are trying to push each other from the ring. That's also one thing you can do here.
剣道も参考にしました。
Then there's kendo, the Japanese fencing.
武器を振り回して相手の体に打撃を与えればダメージが入って倒れやすくなるようなものになっています。
Here the idea is to swing your weapon around, try to hit your opponent's body, and if you do, you end up giving them damage and make it easier for yourself to win.
武術のような真面目な戦いはいいですが、ゲームの中ではどんな危険な行動もできます。例えば、スクーターに乗って相手を引いてしまうといった、恐ろしいことも、ゲームの中では、安全に、犠牲者を出さずにできます。
Of course, you can get quite far with martial arts, but since it's a game, you can also do other things. For example, you can have your crab ride a scooter and try to hit the other one. And of course, that's very dangerous in real life, but in a game, you can do it safely without any casualties.
ゲームなので、架空の、ものを出してもいいでしょう。ジェットエンジンで、空を飛んだりとか、現実にないものをどんどん、考えてみてください。
And of course, you don't need to stick to reality either. You can have something from real, from fantasy world. For example, you can have this kind of jet engine that will take your crab airborne.
よくできたゲームを目指すのはもちろんいいですが、ゲームを作る一番の武器は、想像力だと思います。自分の欲している、体験を思い描いてみてください。
Of course, trying to create a good game is a very good source of inspiration. But I think also trying to bring out your own creativity is also a very good line to go with. So basically, you have some idea, you want to bring something into being, and just following that, seeing where it takes you, I think is a very good idea too.
いろんな方々に、遊んでもらいましょう。ゲームジャムで作ったゲームがもし気に入ったりしたら、作り込んで、発売してみるような夢を持つのもお勧めします。
And of course, it's very good to have different kinds of people try out your game. So if you end up liking the game that you made here at the Game Jam, please develop it further and make it into something you can sell and have people play.
例えば、カニの喧嘩の場合、日本でも今 e スポーツがとても活気づいています。
すいません、何かe スポーツね。はいはいはい。
e スポーツ、はい。
はい、失礼しました。For example, with Fight Crab, it's actually being in Japan also e-sports is very much in the vogue right now.
カニの産地で行われた e スポーツのイベントでは、ファイトクラブのトーナメントで、勝った子どもたちが、商品としてカニをプレゼントされています。
For example, the fight crab has been used in a tournament in a region in Japan where crabs are being produced. So the children had a tournament, and the winner got crabs.
完全に自分が作りたいゲームを作ったとしても、もう思いがけないところに、反響があるかもしれません。
Even if you're creating a game alone, you're doing exactly what you want. There are sometimes, cases where you can't just get your idea out. You can't get it out the way you want.
これはやってみないとわからないことなので、ぜひ、いろいろゲームジャムの後も挑戦してみましょう。以上になります。
But this is something that you can't, you don't know what's going to be. You don't know how it's going to turn before you try it out. So just go for it and challenge yourself. Thank you very much.
Arigato. Thank you so much, Masafumi. This is just absolutely perfect as well.
I tried really hard not to laugh when I saw these little kids with crab boxes as a present. They look so delicious also.
They must have been super happy with those boxes. Thank you. Those were like go to your supermarket, find your main leading actor, I guess, in whatever you can find in your supermarket. Then maybe if you have an international team, you can have another supermarket with other creatures. I'm pretty sure that those kind of crabs cannot be found in the supermarkets in Finland, but maybe we can find something else to scan in the
yeah, maybe somewhere in Norway they probably have. Oh, well, we have salmon.
Yeah, I think that you have to clean the scanner before you scan your fishes, and then clean afterwards, especially if you're using like a school scanner. Might be really good thing to do. Yeah, I totally love these tips, and also like a really useful is to look beyond the video games, beyond the digital games, and get the inspiration to your rules and mechanics. That's really handy for in any kind of things.
Yep. So we have a lot of tips coming in. So I also illustrated your thoughts along the way. You can also check it in the Twitch live. So starting with Arvi, we talked about, how to interpret the themes, maybe step out from your comfort zone, maybe try to work with the team. Even if you want to do solo jam, maybe you might want to try out talking with other interesting, and maybe like also have very creative interpretation going around. So not just stick with the meaning of the word, but maybe play around how the word sounds like, or ideas coming
Relotion. or no bores.
Discovery, something. That was the example that he pointed out. And then move on to Martin. We also talked about like try to talk with your team, try to share ideas first before abruptly trying to go make the game from a get-go. Maybe have some time, take your ideas, and maybe you might want to fake some tricks there. Maybe like the game may not have full randomizers or awesome AI or optimization, but maybe in a jam game, maybe you can scope it down, have it manually done, and then fake it like it's in awesome technology.
Yeah, you don't have to have like a full dive in your prototype, basically. I love the procedural generation tip that maybe just kind of fake it, but you can still try it. Like maybe your whole experience of a game jam is to try procedural generation, and that's what you aim for.
Yep.
But yeah, it can take a lot of time, and I guess it was also who had the tip that you can test the most difficult idea first. Who raise your hand? Who was it?
Me.
That was also Martin.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was really beautiful.
Yeah, and then try to test out, try to let out, like have people play around if it's challenging or not, if it's easy or not. Just show it. Try not to hold it until the very end. Try it out and test it out. And there we go.
I don't think I could ever allow myself to do the kind of fake it thing, like the idea that I would release something where it's not actually procedurally generated would weigh on my soul too much.
Well, maybe you can try it
It's
next time and see what happens to your soul.
Yeah, absolutely.
Soul crushing experience with a game jam where I guess like there's a common expression, like, or kind of a way of saying this, that if you're a carpenter and you make like shelves or something, you want also the backside of it look good, otherwise it will always bother you, but then nobody else really cares. So maybe game jams are great places also to train that ability to let go.
Awesome. And then we
or just be just be more ambitious, like Sun says.
Yeah, and then for Sun, he mentioned about this 1 hour and 43 minutes jam that it experienced, and the tips about maybe try to select the genre first if you can, if that's easy, like hopefully. So start from somewhere. If the idea is to like too big or vague, maybe start from somewhere, maybe a genre, maybe a tip of idea somewhere, and then have it trim it down.
Or break the essence of that idea.
Yeah, break the essence of that idea. Like go to the essence of what this genre is, what this game could be.
And then twist it.
Yeah, and then twist it. And then try to talk and try to mix the idea. Don't be afraid to mix the idea with your team. So that was another tip from Sun. And I'm also showing the live illustration of that.
I loved it. I love the mention of, or the kind of expression of melting the ideas together to make them better.
Melting pot of ideas. Yeah. So that was also there. And then Masafumi lastly shared out his journey through his game Fight Crab.
Yeah.
And about like find the ideas from your surroundings, basically. I think that was the message here. Try not to look for the ideas in like far, grand, somewhere awesome place, but like around you.
See, it's awesome.
Yeah, and their supermarket is filled with characters Who
Yeah.
would have thought
I,
that?
I also I really appreciate the interpretation of Neighbours, that the fish creatures and all the sea creatures basically are our neighbors, but we know very little of them. So like the also human neighbors, we oftentimes don't know
Yep.
enough to make judgments, for
Yep.
instance.
But try not to eat your neighbors.
Oh yeah, not the human neighbors.
I have to confess, like all these crab pictures look so delicious
you
to me.
Feel hungry.
Yeah, make me feel hungry.
Seafood on your side of the home country.
Of course.
You could do like a cattle simulator where it's Neighbour, like neigh the sound of a snake, and boar the like wild pig.
Yeah,
That's
boar
good.
is a live pig.
Yeah.
So
It's a cow, not a boar.
boar. So here we go, like another. We shouldn't disturb our jammers' ideas. We
No,
shouldn't-
this is a
but
good
then
one.
just,
I think
like,
that in a game jam you have
still-
to steal ideas, just do whatever.
Yep.
Like Martin said, fake it. Fake
Fake
that
it.
it's your idea.
Every good ideas can be shared. It's
Yeah.
that's where the jam comes in, and interpretations. Yeah,
the themes.
Arvi already came up with nice interpretations of it. So
Let's have a round of kind of of our speakers. What is the first word that comes to your mind? And now it's like so much easier for the ones that come later. But from the word relation, like, okay, Arvi can't start, so let's start with Martin. What's the first word that comes to your mind from the word relation?
That's tricky. I think if I was gonna prototype something, I would probably start thinking about some local multiplayer type thing, where like some cooperation thing maybe, about doing
Couch
things
co-op?
together with someone. Yeah.
Good. How about Sun? What is the first thing that comes to your mind from the word relation?
dun, dun,
I think
dun.
you're muted.
Yep. The first thing is like relationship between non-living things,
Like aliens or rocks, or what do you mean?
or something like task between mouse and keyboard, love story between keyboard and mouse. And
Ah,
something
okay.
like
Oh, I
Right.
almost thought you were gonna say mouse and cat.
that.
Those have the very stereotypical relationship.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah. How about Masafumi? What comes to your mind when we talk about the word relation?
ああ、そうですね。まあ、毎日行ってる場所かな。スーパーマーケットもそうですし、レストランとか、近所の人たちみたいな感じですね。
I think it's the places where I go every day, like the restaurants or the people who are living next to me, something like that.
Oh, that's nice.
So
Yeah.
neighbors.
Yeah, like
relationship with neighbors.
I think that Japan has this kind of a very different take on the city plans, that in a very one block you can already like have restaurants. Like for instance, in Finland, it's kind of blocked in places where restaurants can be. But in the Japanese city layouts, there's like a tiny, there's everything in that. Like you can build businesses and restaurants already next to the living places. So
Yeah,
it's-
in Finland there's like a very certain layouts in certain
日
places.
本
have
独自
certain-
なんですね、そこは。
Ah, so that's unique to
知らな
Japan.
かった
I didn't know that.
All right.
Yeah. For some
Ah.
reason, I've been watching some YouTube videos about the city
Ah,
plans in Japan. I don't know why, but it's like, yeah, it's an interesting take on how the cities are built.
Well, that's also the
Let's give stage to Arvi, though,
Yeah.
even though we already forbid him to return to the relotion idea. But another thing that comes to your mind.
Yeah, to be honest, relotion was more like, what is the oddest thing I can make out of this, or the most like inventive thing? But I think my initial thing that comes to mind is some kind of having some kind of a map of nodes and the relations between them. For example, like a map of social media friends, so that you have
Alright.
one person as a circle with their name in it, and then like links to all their friends, and creating this kind of like a web of people who know each other. I think
Right.
for me, relation brings to mind this kind of link between two to nodes or persons or such. So I would probably go for, I don't know, some kind of like a social media simulator or something.
So is it like what is it that we are all connected with? Was it 4 steps or even less? In the world?
It's the 6 stages of
6.
separation. Is kind of like it's never more than 6, I think, is the theory. And the same works on Wikipedia. You can get there's actually a website where you can see how quickly you can get from one Wikipedia article to the next one or a specific next one. And it's never more than 6.
Yeah. So there is those ideas already about the relation, how the world is so small and connected with everybody. So everything affects each person in the world. I'm gonna go for another reaction question, and I'm gonna direct it first to Sun. Is that what is the game, like existing, maybe popular game that comes to your mind when someone says word relation? Sun, are you there?
Yep.
Thinking about it.
Oh, say again, please. Sorry.
So yeah, basically that. What would be the first like popular video game that comes to your mind from the word relation?
Okay. So yeah, I always kept thinking about that kind of the relationship between machines, keyboard and mouse, and computer. So if I make a video game with
but what would be like existing game already that comes to your mind?
Oh yeah, existing game. It Takes Two. It's super popular, right?
Yeah. True. Yeah, it's been out there.
That's a relation, yes.
I don't know. So yeah, at first, some games like Oh.
Oh, I can hear.
That's a relation as
There's
well.
my baby. Yeah, that's
a relation.
So the first things in my mind was like something like co-op games with a relationship between controllers. So yeah, Overcooked, or I don't know. Yeah.
Say again.
Overcooked.
Okay. Yes,
like
of course.
That?
Yeah. Also the sea creatures. Arvi, what is a game that comes to your mind from the existing games?
It's kind of an odd thing. I didn't really expect this, but something like Papers, Please or something. I feel that those games, while they are not about relations directly, they showcase this kind of like having this oppressive system as in the forefront, and then people having these relations, helping each other and trying to survive under the oppressive system on the background. Or it's like it's a game that showcases relations, even though the gameplay is not about directly maintaining those relations.
Yeah, it's interesting. Like the people that come behind you in the queue might be like somehow related to the previous one, and there's like very subtle game design kind of moves in that game about the relations between those people in the line, which makes it more deep.
Absolutely, and the way you can also, as a player, affect other people's relations. There's this woman who is waiting for her husband, who is a soldier, to come back, and you have the power to reunite them or cause
not.
problems if you are not fast enough in handling situations and so on. It's very in surprising ways. Maybe not something to recreate at the jam, but you can always try.
Yeah, it can be small things.
Structure.
So how about Masafumi? An existing game that comes to your mind with the word relation. And it cannot be yours.
はい。今エルデンリングをやってるんですけれども、あのゲーム地面にメッセージを書いて他のプレイヤーにいろいろ教えることができるんですね。で、ゲーム自体が難しすぎて、あれがないとなかなか難しいので、そういうなんというか直接遊ばないけど一緒にプレイしてる感じというのはとても楽しいですね。
So actually, I'm playing a game called Evidending right now, and it's basically a game where you can send messages to other players. You can write them on the ground, and other people can read them. The game is so difficult that it's actually, if you didn't have this function, it'd be very difficult to proceed. But the fact how you can actually, you're not playing together with somebody per se, but you're actually still involved. You're still connected with the other players. That's something that comes to mind. It's very interesting.
That's very nice, like to be kind of indirect connection also, the
Yeah.
relation.
That reminds me of the game Journey. That
Yep.
also had like the type of interactions that was possible in that game was sensational when it was first released. Yes.
And then for my mind, it came to mind that you could also think about that the relation is between yourself. So maybe like a ghost player of your previous run if you're not making a multiplayer. And finally, we have Martin. Did we ask from you already? What is a game that comes to your mind?
Not.
Can it be yours also?
I was gonna say It Takes Two,
Yeah.
but then Sun took that one, and then I was like,
Sorry.
I'm gonna go for Elden Ring, and then
Again.
it said Elden
That's
Ring.
very
So
fresh.
I'm going for Eco.
Yeah.
It's a favorite of mine.
Oh, yeah.
Which
Yeah,
is kind of
actu-
like a co-op game, but you're playing with an AI.
Yeah.
Actually, somebody on our Twitch chat also mentioned Eco.
Eco. Yeah.
Yeah.
Very, very kind of a classic for the relation of the player with another character, which is really close. Yeah. Do we have any questions from the chat?
Well,
Everybody has been really concentrating and listening to tips.
right, not so much about question, but then mesmerized by some of the comments. There were also a lot of emojis about crabs as well on our Twitch channel at the moment, and our Discord server is fluxing with a lot of crab memes
Oh, yeah.
as well. So that was quite fun as well, and then people are giving... And there were also some comments for Son's daughter, cute voice.
Yeah, I love this comment. If I had a penny for every time a lecturer told me to buy crabs at supermarket, I'd have 2 pennies. Not much, but strange that it happened twice. So I wonder what was the first time. But yeah, it's interesting.
An interesting approach. I mean, like, you can find a lot of characters around you, and then Jam could be some sort of game that you've never seen before.
Oh, yeah.
A very starting from very small items around you, maybe right next to your computer, maybe a mouse and keyboard, and start from there. Or you can also, like Arvi said, you can just play around with this word and have very satire feelings of this like neons and word game.
Yeah, you can definitely interpret the theme of the jam exactly as you wish. I guess we went quite fast with all the keynote talks, but I'm still interested of our keynote speakers' interpretation of the word neighbors, or some anecdotes or stories about your experiences with your neighboring countries, because we are here at least with Finns, Swedes, Koreans and Japanese, and then there are other nationalities also involved. Our partners in Ritsumeikan University, Chungkang University, as well as Södertörn University, and Aalto and other universities in Finland. Everybody is free to attend as well, but maybe, I don't know if this is a great direction, but some kind of nice, lovely experiences for you with your neighboring country
Do you
would be
wanna-
nice to share.
So
Who
do
would
you-
like to start? Raise your hand. And if not, I will assign it to you. At least I've had a really great experience with realizing today how much Solip can also translate Japanese. So such a kind
Yay.
of similar than the kind of Finns and Swedes that we know Swedish in. Like we need to learn Swedish in Finland because it's our second national official language. So we take a pride on being able to talk quite many languages in Finland, and Swedish is one of those because it's our close neighbor.
Yeah. And
We
also
don't
for
learn
yeah.
any Finnish in Sweden, so
Oh yeah, well, yeah, it doesn't
got
always
nothing.
work the other way around. but at the same time,
it's kind of scary being in Finland because I could potentially speak Swedish to a lot of people, but sometimes I can't, and then I'm just like, I'm sorry for being the rude foreigner, assuming you know my language. Can we please
Aw.
speak English?
yeah. But you as a Swede, you can talk with Norwegian people. So do you, Martin, have any anecdotes between the differences and the similarities of the Swedish and Norwegian? Because I know that there's like a lot to share, but then some words are crucially different.
Yeah, I think for me, Danish is maybe more common.
Right?
and
Yeah,
there's
it's very close to
the special sort of Swedish-Danish crossover language where everyone's trying really hard to avoid the forbidden words that mean something very bad in Danish and something completely mundane in Swedish. And it's one of those things that you just gotta try it and you'll find out
Yeah, I think
which are
that
the words you cannot say.
that's a good thing. Like, is it possible to find by Googling this? Because it's like it's gonna give me superpower over Danish and Swedes, I guess, in the
Probably,
future
yeah.
game conferences.
And like everybody knows this, so it's not like you're not gonna cause a big like people are gonna laugh at you, but like it's
Yeah.
gonna be fine, probably.
Yeah, there's some Finnish
but it's-
words
it's-
that in Italian means some really bad stuff, so they might.
Oh.
I'm not gonna say it, so you have to also Google that for yourself. But then there's like interesting Estonian Finnish kind of overlap with like
Yes.
I can't remember which way, but there is the word for mold in Finnish home, and then the same word is is hallitus, which is actually government in Finnish. So I can't
Oh.
remember which way it goes, but it's
Yeah,
quite
I mean,
telling.
So for those who are not here from Nordic, the viewers coming from Asia, Finnish language is very different compared to other Scandinavian languages. So like Swedish, Norwegian, and Danish, they are quite similar. While Finnish language is more closer to Estonian language.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, although similar to relationship with Korean and Japanese, there's a lot of vocabularies that are being shared between Swedish and Finnish, although not all. I think in Japan and Korea we also share quite a lot of vocabularies, although we pronounce in very different accent because
Yeah.
they're derived from Chinese language
Yeah.
also at the same time.
Super
yeah.
interesting.
Language-wise. But of course, I find it so fascinating when Europeans somewhat able to communicate with their neighboring country. That is so fascinating because that doesn't
Yeah.
happen much in East Asia, where I came from.
Yeah.
Like, we could sort of communicate with written
Mm-hmm.
Chinese characters, but once we start pronouncing it, no way we can able to understand. But like I noticed, like Swedish and Danish,
Yeah.
and
they're
also
so
Germans and Dutch, they also kind of able to communicate, although they laugh at each other also at the same
Yeah.
time.
Arvi, do you have any story of Swedes? You've been to Sweden and maybe even Denmark. Denmark is not our neighbor, but you've been to Sweden a lot of times, I'm sure.
No. Yes, I absolutely do. But I think it would be kind of difficult to, in these situations where you're asked, tell one interesting anecdote. You always have your mind blank out. But I feel that just as a general thing, back like 10 years ago when I started going to game jams, I didn't really know, and I was slightly scared to really look up too much about the Finnish indie scene. And as such, I really appreciated the fact that in Sweden, I knew already indie developers who were organizing these events. And that actually the first time I went to Sweden for a game jam was actually also the first time I was ever traveling to a foreign country on my own. And it was a very, very nice and good experience. There was another Finnish person at the jam, so I wasn't completely going on my own, but I feel that just as a kind of general personal anecdote of having a good time with Swedish people, that first No More Sweden game jam, the name was given by Swedish people. It's not like an anti-Sweden game jam, by the way, was both very exciting, but also very cozy. And it kind of distilled this idea of, if I want to go for a physical game jam, I'm going to Sweden or Denmark later on because of the Malmö-Copenhagen connection. So, and that has, like, I've seen Martin many times over the years in these kinds of contexts, and appreciates it greatly because Martin is the one who has been organizing No More Sweden, at least partially, for a long time.
Maybe Martin can defend the name. Like, is that anti-Sweden?
No, I think it's like Finnish people get a lot more uncomfortable with that name than Swedish people, I think, because of some like imperialism. I don't even know. It's the game No More Heroes was kind of popular when we named the game jam. And I guess the thinking was that all the people who make indie games in Sweden are going to be at this event. So if something happens, there's going to be no more Sweden.
I heard the story.
It doesn't like there's a couple of other stories of how the name came to be, and I honestly don't know.
Yeah, I heard the story that everyone was on a train and someone joked that all the indie developers of Sweden are in this train. So if it crashes, there's no more Sweden in indie devs.
Oh. Good thing that nobody got crash landed or anything. Yes.
I think it's a good kind of a strategy not to put all the Swedish game developers into one airplane, for instance, to GDC or something. You have to have a little bit of industry left, I guess. And some people need to stay home because San Francisco is really, we're waiting for the earthquake at least, like sometime somewhere. Let's go to the Sons and Masafumi's experiences of each other's countries. Like, if there's anything to share. Son, do you want to start?
Yeah, actually, I'm organizing an indie developer meetup called Seoul Indies, and that meetup is totally inspired by Tokyo Indies. So.
Oh.
Yeah, when I visited Tokyo Game Show, and there was this special meetup for Tokyo Game Show from Tokyo Indies, and yeah, that atmosphere was pretty good. So I asked the organizer of Tokyo Indies, how could I organize a good meetup in Seoul, and also we are still very closed.
Yeah. How long does it take to go from Seoul to Tokyo?
Oh, it's about less than 3 hours.
Yeah, in the flight,
in an airplane.
Yeah, it's pretty near. So yeah, and someday I've talked with some Japanese indie game event organizers about like doing a game jam on a ship from Busan to Tokyo or something like that.
Oh yeah,
you
could.
Yeah.
It's
you
like
have to do
3
that.
to 4 hours.
Yeah, after COVID pandemic.
Ooh.
Yeah, hopefully.
Ship jam.
Yeah, there's I remember I took that ferry from Busan to Fukuoka, I think.
Yeah.
It took quite a couple of hours, and it was quite boring, so it would have been nice to have a jam there as well. I remember.
I guess that's one of the birth stories of Train Jam, because it's a 52-hour train journey from Chicago to San Francisco in the States, and that's pretty boring to do. You get to see a lot of like nice scenery, but at some point it's gonna be boring. So it's so much more fun to do a game jam.
And then especially in the ferry, I don't know how it is now, but at least back then there was no Wi-Fi, so it's absolutely nothingness that you have to overcome the boredom of arriving your destination. So it could be very analog jam as well.
Oh, yeah. Well, nowadays might be that we have the disturbance of possibilities for the connection of the internet connection. It's hard to make a jam. At least in Finland, it's almost impossible to find a place where there's no internet connection. But I guess we're
in the middle of the sea.
Yeah.
Oh, we could grab a crabs in that ship to Japan.
Yeah.
And do a game jam.
So that gives us a bridge to Masafumi. Like, what would you like to share as in relations to Japanese?
Korea?
Korean, yes.
そうですね。実は私もプサンと福岡からプサンのフェリーに乗ったことがあります。大学が九州で、留学生が韓国から来ていたんで、ちょっと友達の国に行こうということでフェリーに乗ってプサンに行きました。
Yes, actually, I've also been on that ferry from Fukuoka to Busan because my university is located in Kyushu, very near to Korea, where the ships go from. And I had some friends from Korea, so I thought I'd go to visit them, and that's why I got on the ferry.
That's very nice.
で福 フェリーでは船酔いでゲームどころではなかったんですけれども、プサンで美味しいもの、焼肉とか、いろいろな海産物を食べて、当時はゲーム開発者じゃなかったんで、そういう交流は、ゲーム開発者の交流はしなかったんですけど、とてもいい思い出です。
And on my road to Fukuoka, well, I was actually seasick for the whole trip, so it was not, thinking about games and nothing was not on my mind right then. But then when I got to Busan, it was so good, that we went to eat some Korean barbecue. We had lots of, different kinds of seafood and stuff like that. It was so good. And I wasn't a game designer then, so I didn't have any game designer stuff going on at that point, but the food was amazing.
Yeah.
日本でいう蒸しケブルっていう、なんでしょうね、海産、ウインナーみたいな、非常にシュールな海産物があるんです。それが非常に印象深いですね。
And they have this thing called kiburu. It's like looks like a wiener basically, and it was very much staying on my mind. Yes, it was very gave me a great impact.
Yeah.
I mean, two countries are quite close to each other, Korea and Japan.
Yeah.
For example, my hometown, Ulsan, I was able to tune in Japanese radio signal from there. That's how close we are. Like for some reason, only during the night, not during the day, but then during the night you can hear.
Maybe the air is kind of less with signals.
Yeah, that's how close we are.
My father was born in Sweden during the wartime, and he always had a chance to have a Swedish passport because he was born in Sweden. But the story is kind of interesting because during the wartime, also the priest of his village went to Sweden to escape the war, and they took the books of the church with them. So my father was in the books of his home village, but was born in Sweden. So there was always a difficulty to interpret: is my father Swedish or Finnish?
Oh. Identity
obviously
crisis.
Finnish, but it wasn't fortunately too long that they had to be in Sweden. and it was a nice place. I've been there, so Sweden is nice. Not that this is anti-Sweden either, but it's just that it's kind of interesting how it happened, because back in the day when you were born, you were put into the church books physically, but in the church book it said the city of the Swedish place that my father was born.
Bureaucratic crisis.
It's like
historical.
All right, so we are kind of closing in our time. It's been super wonderful to chat with you. I hope that our jammers have gotten a lot of ideas to jam games from these wonderful talks and from these relations between our speakers. I itch from my fingers. I want to jam myself and make some kind of a small and simple game out of this topic. We are in a world crisis where we really need to think about the relationship between the neighbors, to care each other, to be supportive of each other, and allow a lot of love in this world.
And that's actually why we're actually technically organized this event and actually chose the theme relation here, because this is a time that we want to think about our neighbors, and also because the travel restrictions are lifted in some part of the world, but still it's quite challenging for us to interact with people outside your own area. So hopefully our jammers would, through this jam, be able to communicate, interact with people across the world and feel that these are the people, these are all like gamers alike, we're in this together. So hopefully we could have some sort of that international cultural exchange moment through this jam, and that's the whole purpose of why we're doing this.
It's okay to do a solo jam. It's perfectly okay to be with the pre-made theme as well, but we encourage you to now try, like Arvi said, go outside your comfort zone. And even though you would have a language barrier, we have the Japanese and Korean help channels in our Discord server. So there's absolutely no kind of excuses of not engaging with people or kind of your global neighbors outside of your own region, outside of your language comfort zone, so to speak. But we are allowing all sorts of teams to form, and we're gonna jump quite soon into that
Yes.
part after this talk show. I want to still say thank you for all of our keynote speakers. So if we can get everybody to the screen. So thank you so much. It was really nice tips, and I'm sure that there's kind of good games coming up. We're gonna see Arvi, Martin, San, and Masafumi also next week, hopefully, if all goes well. So they're gonna pick their favorite games from the jam submissions and explore a little bit of those. We're gonna see how that organizes together. But we're gonna come back and see what you actually made or
Yep.
what the jammers made. So even if you're not jamming, just join again next week on the same time. And
Yeah,
if you
and we're
still
gonna-
didn't register for the jam, there's still time. You can use 1 hour for the entire week. You can use the entire week. You can use 6 hours. You can decide yourself.
Yep. So do join our Discord server, and then do join us also in the live stream next Monday, right around this time next week, where we're gonna review some games that has been submitted throughout this jam. And for those jammers, the submission deadline is this Sunday. And do check the time thoroughly on our HIO page because of time zone madness.
Yeah.
Just be mindful of that. And actually, for the jammers, we're gonna do a brainstorming, say hi, introduction channel, introduction session after this live stream on our Discord server. So be patient with us. We'll be there with you soon.
Yeah, and I wanted to say still something, but I forgot that.
Oh no! Well, we're gonna be
But
on Discord. Hopefully, we can
will
say
be-
something
We'll
there.
be in the Discord, but stay tuned. Follow all of our channels. Typically, Games Now, Alto FI, Instagram, HIO, Twitch, Facebook, Twitter. We are all of
Yeah.
those, and YouTube, of course. So this will be a recording. Maybe you watch this in the future. You got inspired, and you're gonna do a jam. And now I remember what to say.
Yeah.
So there will be another jam also during the upcoming weekend, and it's Ludumdares. I think that they're a
yes.
celebratory jam. We do encourage double submissions, so if you are planning like which one should I attend, just attend both.
Yes.
And just do the kind of a blend or kind of mashup of the themes like what was suggested by Sun, I guess. Sun was suggesting this idea of do the
Ludumdare.
blend.
Yeah, Arvi
Yeah.
was also
All right.
mentioning about the Ludumdare. And yeah, do go for it. And then look forward to what type of games we're gonna see. But first, we'll catch up with jammers on Discord server. Do join our interactive sessions soon enough. And thank you very much for all our speakers. Once again, you've done it. We did it. We did this lecture
And
spanning through 4 different countries. Yes.
And thank you also for Jonas for the interpretation of the Japanese.
Thank
All
you
right.
very much, Jonas. Okay.
So I guess we're gonna end up with this screen with everybody visible here.
And
And have a nice Monday, everybody.
have a nice jam.
Have a nice jam. Bye.
Bye bye.
Bye bye.